Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to do some easy northern lights with watercolor markers for beginners. The first thing I did is I drew out a little oval and then I picked some colors and I am just going to color thick stripes across the oval. Now I have gotten yellow, a nice bright green, a nice blue, and then a purple. And what I'm doing is I'm going from lighter to darker. I want the lighter color, that yellow, to be toward the horizon, and I want the darker colors to be up in the sky, like going out into the universe, out into the night sky. So I'm just coloring those on. I'm using Tombow markers. These are the dual tipped, and I'm using the brush tip to color in these little stripes. Now it's not, you just color them in. You don't have to be too careful with it. You don't have to get your panties in a wad. Once you get those colored in there, and you can pick any colors. These are just the colors I picked. I'm taking my fine mist sprayer and I am just spraying right on top of the paper. Now this is a 140-pound hot pressed paper that I'm working on, so it's a smooth paper. You get it really, pretty wet, and those markers will just glide and mix into each other. Then once you get it mixed the way you want it, you can tilt it around, let it dry completely. Just lay it down and let it dry and let that water do the work. And you see this is dry through the magic of video, and it has gotten some beautiful patterns. So now I've gotten my Tombow marker that is sort of a pale gray, and I am doing the background mountains. These are off in a distance. That's why I want to go with a lighter gray, because things that are off in a distance tend to look lighter than things that are closer to us in the foreground. So these distant mountains I'm going to do with a paler gray. Then once I get those the way I want it, I'm going to come back in with black, and I'm going to do the mountains that are closest to us. And I'm not crazy about the way I did my mountain range, but I'm just doing this as a demonstration. You can create your mountains any way you want. It does not matter to me. This isn't like the best composition or the best arrangement, but I still like it, and it is great for a demonstration. So I've got my black Tombow marker, again using the brush end. These are water-based markers, and I'm not even coloring the whole page in. I'm just leaving gaps, because after this I'm gonna get a damp, not really really wet, but a damp watercolor brush, and this is a number 2, and it is a mimic faux squirrel hairbrush, and it is made by Creative Mark, and I'm just blending that in with my damp brush. And once I get that the way that I want it, I'm going to rinse that brush off. That's what I'm doing now. And I'm going to take that gray in the background and sort of blend it down, because a little bit of that yellow is shining through. It's okay, but I want to dull it down just a little bit so that it doesn't take away from those northern lights I've got going on over the horizon. So I'm just let that dry now. Now it's dry through the magic of video, and I am getting another Tombow marker. This one is black, and I am going to just draw in some pine trees. Now I'm doing a little line that's going to be my guide, and I want to go really small branches at the top, and all I'm doing really is just sort of, I call it pecking at the paper. I'm just pecking at the paper. I'm just doing tiny little dots and just sort of bouncing the tip of that brush end of the marker over the paper. And as I go down toward the ground, I am making those wider and wider so that it is a cone shape. It's a cone, y'all. So we want to get that cone shape going. We want it smaller at the top, larger at the bottom. We're just really doing little taps and marks. We're not actually trying to draw in each individual branch. We're just tapping, letting a little bit of that background shine through, because we don't want it too dense. We want to have some interest and some texture. So that's what we're going to do there, and we're going to continue until we get to the ground, and we're going to continue spreading those branches wider and wider until we hit that black mountaintop. Now we're gonna pop over here and we'll do a shorter tree, still with the black. And I'm of course gonna just do my little dotted line. That's my guide of how tall I want it. You don't want all your trees the same exact height. You want some taller, some shorter. You want some wider, some thinner. I'm not doing a lot of trees in this one, but I just want you to know to vary your heights and widths of your trees so that it'll give it some better interest and more texture. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm just sort of pecking at the paper, just doing little tiny sort of dots and blobs, smaller at the top, wider toward the bottom in a cone shape, just like, you know, an evergreen or a Christmas tree. It's more of a Christmas tree because some evergreens aren't shaped like a Christmas tree or like a cone. But these are. Ours are because we want to keep this simple. It's just a simple way to do Northern Lights. It's really pretty. You could use this for a gift tag, on a card. I mean, you could just use your imagination. So I'm doing an even smaller one here beside of this taller one. So I am doing my own advice. I am following my own advice. I am making my trees different heights and different widths. So now I have a nice little set of trees, but I think I want some trees to look like they're in the background, just like those mountains. So I'm taking that pale gray again, and I'm just lightly drawing on some more trees. That gray might be just a little teeny bit too pale, so I'm switching over to just a shade darker so that you could at least see it better. Again, that same concept, that trees that would be further away from you, they're going to be lighter. Trees that are closer to you, they're going to be darker. And of course, I'm doing my little line down so that I have a guide, smaller at the top, fatter at the bottom. You might want to do one or two more of these, that's up to you. Just remember to vary the height, vary the width, make sure some of that background shines through. Don't make them solid cones. That would not be pretty, it would be ugly. You want it to have some of that light shining through. I think I'm going to do another one over here, another little tree that's far away. I'm doing my guide, and then I'm just bouncing my pen, my little brush pen, right across that line and making my little bouncy marks wider and wider. The further I go down, the closer I get to the ground, so that I get a nice little Christmas tree shape, a nice little cone shape. So that adds a little bit of depth, a little bit more dimension. And I think I like that. I like it. That's 5 trees, so that's an odd number. It's best to do things in odd numbers when you're arranging your objects. You want to have an odd number of objects. It's just more pleasing to the eye for some reason. Now I've got my white jelly roll pen, and I'm just dotting in some stars. You can make them different sizes. Make sure you group some close together, just like the stars are in the sky. They're not all spread out evenly from each other. Some are in clusters, some are closer than others, some are larger than others. So just think about the night sky and how the stars look, and just do your dots accordingly. And I also make fewer dots the closer to the ground I get, the closer to the horizon. I want most of my stars up there in that darker part. For one, because they show up better, and two, usually stars do not come all the way down to the horizon, depending on your perspective and where you're actually viewing from. But I am putting a few down toward the mountains. Just not that many. I'm keeping them concentrated up there in the atmosphere, in the taller atmosphere, above the trees, in the dark part, and that's starting to look pretty good. I really like it. So since I was messy and I didn't use masking fluid around the outer edge, which this is just a scrap piece of paper. Again, if I didn't tell you already, it's 140-pound hot pressed, so it's a smooth surface. You don't want to use your pens on real rough surface. You could fray the edges, and then that ruins your pens, your markers. So I'm just going to cut this little oval out, and I think I'm pretty happy with it. And that is just a simple little Northern Lights motif You can make it square, you can make it any color. I mean any shape. I just did mine as an oval just to make it more interesting. But you can do any shape. You can glue that on a card or make it a tag, or just do whatever you want to with it. I did another one on the back that I'm not as happy with. There, you see that? It's too much ground and not enough sky. That's what I didn't like about it. But so I just turned it over and did the back side. It's just paper, people. Don't be afraid of your paper. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Please consider subscribing, share it with a friend that you think would like this. Hit that like, leave me a comment on some suggestions of what you would want to see me paint next, and hopefully I will see you soon. Happy painting!